Hello everyone. We have the famous Amanda Cofsky here today from Power BI team, Power BI desktop team, I believe, and all of you know her with the famous updates, Power BI feature updates coming up every month, which is really interesting and useful for all of us to keep up to date. Hello, Amanda. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amanda Cofsky. I'm a PM on the Power BI desktop team. I mostly focus on the reporting and visual related features. But as Reza said, I also do the monthly video and blog that announces all of the great features we ship every single month.
Great, awesome. So the visual feature of Power BI Desktop, you mean things like, for example, these abilities in like putting filters in visuals, those slicers, or having the states of slices, all those kind of things is coming from your team?
Yeah, and like all the formatting capabilities we typically add every month for visuals, bookmarking, report page tooltips. A lot of those features that you once you get past the data and getting the data in a good shape, the features you use to actually build out your reports.
Right, great.
So
awesome.
like I said, I worked on bookmarking and report page tooltips.
Yes, yeah, and it's good that you point out about that bookmarking. One of the really favorite features that lots of people are looking for is like personal bookmark, which is, I think, more like a Power BI service feature, not a Power BI desktop. Is it? Am I right?
Yes, you're right. So the Power BI desktop team built out the original bookmarking feature that we have in the reports. And
yes.
The service team is now using that feature as like an infrastructure piece to build new features. So like, for example, the sharing feature they have now where you can share to like a specific filter state.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, they're actually using our bookmarks feature. They're creating a temporary bookmark for users to reference through the sharing URL. And they are also working on personalized bookmarks, building on top of the bookmarks feature that we built on the desktop team.
Awesome, great. So in terms of Power BI desktop features that we had recently released, which one is your favorite?
That's a very hard question. I think my favorite was actually not because of the feature itself, but because of the joy I got from shipping it, was the printing feature. I also, the desktop print to PDF.
Yep.
The feature itself is not particularly exciting. It's printing to a PDF. It's pretty standard.
Yes.
But I got a lot of satisfaction from being able to close that top idea on UseVoice.
Right. Yeah, that was a really long,
it's been
long-term
quite
idea.
a while, and it was top of the list. We all get all the PMs on the team get a little bit of joy for whenever we get to actually like mark one of those ideas as closed, especially top one. Like a check mark at the end. So. Yeah. That gave me a lot of satisfaction.
That's great. Regarding some of these Power BI desktop features, people sometimes come and ask us, like, a feature has been like a preview for a long time, shape map as an example. So is there anything happening on that, or we still have to see what is the demand for that? Maybe there are not that much demand for it.
It really depends feature to feature. So shape map's a really interesting one.
Yes.
Typically a normal feature that goes into preview, it's not going to stay there forever. It's hopefully it's just a couple of months. We ship it, we get some good feedback. Maybe we add one or two more improvements on top of it, and then we make it generally available.
Correct.
But depending on the feature, sometimes that's not possible. So like theming, for example, we had that in preview for a little over a year before we actually made it generally available. And that's because the feature itself, the initial feature was a decent amount of work, but it wasn't the feature as a whole had a lot of like small pieces that had to come in over a long period of time before we could really feel like it was done. So like when we first shipped it, it was just colors. And then we shipped an iteration where it had formatting options, but not all of the formatting options. And then we added report level settings. And so it was a lot of incremental work. And so we didn't want to call it officially done. I mean, as much as anything in Power BI is done, we're always iterating on everything. So it took us about a year to be able to get all those different pieces done. And especially for long running stuff, resources are always a contention, so it takes a little bit of time, but we got there in about a year. I would say shape map is a little bit unique compared to all of our other features. It was actually done by like a group of people who eventually went and worked on a different project at Microsoft, and so we don't have quite the expertise built up yet to finish it up, and they left it in a state that we were not comfortable getting ready to ship it. It still works well for a lot of people's scenarios, which is why we're not removing it. It works really well for specific scenarios, but we don't want to ship it until we're really happy with it working for everyone really well. And so we've been just kind of like holding out on it for a while until we get the right demand to build up the knowledge for the people on our team to finish up the work.
Yes.
So that was going to be in limbo for a little while. Of course, unless we get a lot of feedback from, user voice or other people in the community that it is a priority and we should, prioritize that over, say, like expand collapse on a matrix.
Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned about themes, which is one of the really great features of Power BI. Is that also part of the work that you do as part of your team?
Yes, I actually was the PM for theming as well.
Right. Yeah. So these theming is like creating like CSS for our web page, but it is like the Power BI version of that, let's say. Most of people are working with that, and that's perfect. But can you see, let's say, in the future that also has like some programming extending features as well? Like, for example, if I want to say, with this criteria, create, let's say, these visualizations with these, let's say, formatting, but with this criteria, different formatting, not exactly conditional formatting, but something like a theming combined with field definitions, something like that. Is that also somewhere in the future plan?
We do have plans for something similar to that. It's actually, what we're planning right now is not actually building on top of the theming work that we've done. That's going to, at least for a while, stay pretty much static. We've talked about potentially adding different styles, so you can have like 3 different, bar chart styles, and you can pick between them. But that would still be not like dynamic based off of data or a different criteria. We do have a different feature that we are working on, and this one's going to be another one of those like theming long pole where it's going to take us a while to call it officially done. But we do have what we're calling an expression-based formatting plan, so that for any eventually for any formatting capability in the pane, you'll be able to pick you're able to write like a DAX expression, for example, and say like, if this value is this, I want the line to be dotted, otherwise I want it to be solid. And you can make it dynamic that way.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. One of the other things I want to also talk about is some of custom visuals, which is developed by Microsoft, like Infographic Designer, for example. Really cool visual, but it is not part of, let's say, built-in visual list. Is there a plan to bring them in the future, or there is a reason that they are separate?
There's always going to be a set of Microsoft visuals that are going to be separate because they're a little more, not everyone's going to want the Infographic Designer. Like, it's a really cool visual, I agree, but it's a little more advanced. There's only going to be so many people who are going to want to use it. So that one specifically, we probably won't bring in. I mean, I can't say never, but it's not in the plans. We do, however, want to, in some instances, if it makes sense, if it's used a lot, it has a lot of functionality people are asking for, we are considering in the future, no timeline. Not promising anything here, but we do have plans to bring in some of them, like the chiclet slicer, for example, is one of the most used custom visuals.
Yes.
We are considering in the future bringing that functionality into Power BI desktop, and not by just like adding more functionality to our slicer, but actually making that custom visual a core visual. But we're gonna, one, we don't know quite when we're going to start doing that, and two, it's going to be more on a case-by-case basis. It's not going to be like anything Microsoft is going to be integrated in. One of the reasons for that is, like I said, it's the usage and the use case. But another reason is some of those visuals are they are built by different teams at Microsoft, like they're Microsoft research kind of stuff, and so we wouldn't want to necessarily bring those in. We want to leave those separate for the research team to continue to iterate on.
Right. Great. Awesome. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is, can you explain, let's say, a few of the things which is coming next 6 months in Power BI, if it is not under NDA or...
Let's see. Right now, we are focusing a lot more on enterprises, and I think, if anyone ever hears Amir speak and Arun speak, recently, you'll hear the same thing from them. BI is becoming much more mission critical for enterprises, and so our latest kind of focus is things that are required for enterprises to rely on Power BI. That's not to say that we're not going to do some of the other top features that are on user voice and other great things that people normally expect from us. A lot of times those two things go together. So for example, right now we are working on 2 features which are really useful for enterprises, but also top of the user voice list. One is, I mentioned this earlier, which is expand and collapse in a matrix. We are working on, adding those little plus and minus buttons that everyone knows and loves from pivot tables into the row headers. And that's going to be a really exciting release. And that's a great example of something that a lot of enterprises are used to. A lot of enterprises rely on Excel. They're used to using pivot tables. They expect a similar functionality in Power BI.
I think that is one of the most wanted features also in Power BI as well.
For sure. And so we're working on that in the near term. And we're also working on, and a lot of times at enterprises, they have a lot of people working on reports, and reusability is really important for them. Someone builds out a report, they send it to someone else, they make modification, or they need to take something from that one file and move it to a different file. And so we're working on another feature that is top of user voice that we're working on, is the ability to copy a visual from one PBIX file to another PBIX file. Like I said, reusability. I design a visual here. I format a specific way. It takes quite a while to format something. Whenever you're spending a lot of time, doing a bunch of toggles and drop downs, it's a lot of work. So once I have the visual I want, I can just take it from my one PBIX file, Control-C, go over to my other instance of the desktop and Control-V, and now I have my same chart there. And if the data model is the same, the visual will work just fine. Otherwise, it might have the little X on it because the fields don't exist, but all my formatting stuff, so I can just, replace the non-existent fields with the ones from the new model, and I'm good to go.
That's an awesome feature. That's like, I think, the loop-through feature in the visualization side, because then you can reuse a lot of things, just like copying, paste. That would help a lot.
Between files.
Both of these features are actually interesting. The pivot table, having something like pivot table in Power BI, which is one of the reasons that still lots of people are using Excel for it. When they have all these in Power BI, they can do that. And also this one ability to copy paste, that is fantastic. Awesome. Thank you for your monthly updates, videos that you create. Are you building all of that demos yourself, or you have a team building that for you?
Oh man, I wish I had a team. That sounds nice. No, I do it. I do it almost all myself. So it usually starts out, the general flow of a release going out to the public, it starts off with, we release every single month. So usually about a month before the release goes out, we start saying, okay, all the features that are ready to ship, that we're going to start testing them and getting ready for the release. So, the code is done. The engineer says, yep, I'm done with the feature. I think I am at least. And we start bug bashing it. Everyone on the team gets together. All the engineers put in a OneDrive file, a OneDrive page, all their features that they're working on, descriptions of them, and we all start testing them against, and filing bugs against each other. And this is part of how we make sure that a release that goes out is going to be good for the public. Like, there's no hidden bugs. And that's usually how the process starts. And I use that same list that we use for the testing purposes to start off my blog. So I'll look at all the features that engineers have listed are done and ready to go. And they usually have an okay description of it, and I'll use that to start my blog off. I just paste it all into a Word, and I start basically effectively bug bashing myself, just like anyone else. But instead of just, bug bashing and filing bugs against engineers, I write up what I'm doing while I'm bug bashing. And I write a description of how the feature works, and I take screenshots along the way. So I kind of get to do both at once. I test for release, and I get a head start on my blog. And then, of course, there's a lot of iteration on it. I do get some content from other teams. So, for example, you mentioned you talked with Miguel.
Yes.
His team, he always sends me every single month a list of the features related connectors and, the query editor experience. He sends me that list, and I integrate that in. I work with the custom visuals team for custom visual features when they come out. And so I work with a couple of our, they're all part of Power BI wider org, but like separate teams, work with them to integrate in. And I go through a lot of review. I send it out to a wide group of people, all the PMs who work on the features, marketing, testers, all a huge group of people, and I get feedback from them and continue to iterate. And I just use that same file that I use to, bug bash and also write my blog. I use the same one to film my video. And again, I just go through the same process. It's basically me testing the feature in a way while recording it and describing what I'm doing.
That's great. Awesome.
And like I said, I do have some partnership. A lot of it's, I have a process. I've done it so much, I just kind of know what to do, and it goes pretty smoothly. But I do have help from the partner teams for some of the content, and some of the other PMs have started expressing interest in doing videos as well. So some people may have noticed in last month's video, there was another voice other than just mine. Another PM on our team, Dr. Who's relatively new to the team. She's expressed interest, so she's starting to help me out recording the videos. So it's a team effort.
Great. Yeah, that's great. It is a lot of work, I think. And awesome updates, feature updates. Awesome. Thank you. So do you have any last words for audience?
Let's see. I kind of a thank you, I guess. I just love my favorite part of working on Power BI is like it's the great community. I love working with everyone, and I love all the great feedback that we get from stuff, all the great MVPs and all the users and all the feedback they give us. I wouldn't be able to do my job without all the great community giving us feedback and letting us know what else to add. So thank you, and then keep doing it. Keep giving us feedback. Keep voting on stuff on User Voice, because it is really useful for us as we plan out and continue to iterate.
And we have to say thank you as well. If there was no Power BI, none of us would have this awesome Power BI reporting, things like that as well. Awesome, great. Thank you for your time. We'll hopefully do another interview sometime in the future, somewhere in person.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Bye.